Amazon demands one more thing from some vendors, a piece of their company.
Let me put this on. Just say Amazon asked for more. That's what it's happening. All right, so what's happening here? This isn't something that's new. This is something that's been existing, but it's kind of coming to the news today. So if you've seen this article, you heard about it. This is what it's about. So Amazon, like Walmart, has a lot of pricing power and has a lot of power over their partners and the kinds of prices they can extract out of them and pay for their goods and their services. But what Amazon really wants is they want the right to buy stakes in the companies that are their partners. So they want warrants, which are basically the same thing as options. They function a little bit differently, but they give the right and the opportunity for an investor to buy a certain number of shares at a predetermined price, which in Amazon's case is almost always trying to aim for it to be lower than the market value at the time of that purchase. Now, 12 public companies have agreed to these warrants, and over the last 10 years, about 75 private companies have also done so. And the idea here is that Amazon gets a boost from not only the sales of the products from these individual partners, but then by owning or potentially owning down the line shares of the company, what they are ensuring themselves is that the companies will get a boost from doing business with Amazon. They'll get an increase in value from the amount of product they're pushing out through Amazon and selling. So Amazon will get cuts from the amount that they're selling on through their platforms, but then they will also be getting value added, right? Appreciating value on their investments for owning stakes inside of these companies, and that's kind of the idea here. And I think this is way too much power on Amazon, because when you think about this, you're not all because remember these in some cases, right? For I think it was Spartan Nash, if once they activate these warrants, they would be like the second biggest. Spartan Nash is a grocery retailer, and once if they execute these warrants, Amazon would be the second largest shareholder in their company. Now, when you look at that across all these companies, what does that mean? Amazon can get board seats. Amazon can enact influence on these companies. So you want to talk about monopolizing? Not only are you expanding vertically and horizontally yourself, but all of your partners and other companies you now have large shares in, so you can actually enact influence on those companies themselves that aren't part of your entity. Meaning, while they're your partners, you can enact influence on them, and then if they decide to become competitors, you'll still own stakes in their company. In addition to this, Amazon also says we get first dibs when someone comes to you with a takeover or acquisition request. We get up to 10 days to make a counter offer. Now, all this isn't necessarily bad. Some of the people that and execs that use this, they do say that they do prefer this. They like this because it kind of locks up business with Amazon, so Amazon doesn't go to other partners and bring on more people, as well as the fact that if someone gives you an acquisition, then Amazon's going to beat that acquisition. I mean, it just brings more money. So that's kind of the idea and the plus side here. And the spokeswoman for Amazon says that that most of their warrants have requirements on them, meaning that Amazon has to do a certain amount of business. So for Spartan Nash, the grocer, they would get the right to buy 15% of their stock after Amazon buys $8 billion worth of groceries over a 7-year period. So they're not just by default; they have to meet a certain quota of sale and business. And the spokeswoman also said that the current warrant deals they've only been executed on fewer than 1% of the commercial agreements that Amazon enters into. So, which makes sense because they have tons and tons of agreements. So it is very small, but it's still there, and they still want to keep growing and making this more aggressive. Over the last 5 years, it's become much more aggressive, a much more aggressive practice. And the current value of these total warrants that Amazon owns is estimated to be about 2.8 billion US dollars. And some of the ex execs at Amazon, so even though there are some pluses to the side, some of the ex executives from Amazon have been quoted in saying things that these are actually unfair because it gives Amazon a bigger slice of the upside. And what happens is it kind of puts the companies in a position where they really can't refuse. As we know, when Amazon says, you do this, lose access to a service, or when they use things like, their VC funds to learn about technologies, then go and replicate it themselves, or they just create their own, cheaper versions of products to compete with their own competitors or partners directly. This is another one of those things where, you think of the Walmart effect of how they had the ability to kind of put people in positions and force them to make deals when they were uncomfortable at really ridiculous prices. It kind of puts you in the position where, like, you're not going to deny Walmart or Amazon, because a lot of the execs, they don't want to haggle with them. They don't want to risk losing that huge pipeline of business. So they generally go about doing it. And Amazon generally goes about and has warrants for these companies. So it's interesting to see how this expands. But this behavior is also something that lawmakers are very skeptical of, right? And looking into as like, okay, what's the reach here? And again, it doesn't hurt consumers. right? It's not hurting the consumers, and anything, it might be giving more advantages to the consumers in terms of a larger network of products for cheaper and an all kind of inclusive, simple package for delivery. But that's why our laws need to be changed, because I think these tech companies are getting so big that while they're not hurting the consumers, they're gaining so much power and influence and control that one day they're going to have the ability to do a lot more than they can do now. And it'll be too late to stop them, because they are becoming so large that they're becoming sizable opponents to not only individuals and other companies, but governments as well. When your company's worth over $1 trillion, $2 trillion, and you're that integral part of the economy, you can put up one hell of a fight. So definitely very interesting. But I read that today. I thought that was very, very fun. We'll have this description we'll have the links in the descriptions. But look it up. It's definitely very interesting. Very interesting practice that Amazon is doing.
Huge topic. That's like the amount of caveats that could come with that is huge. I mean, the upside is that if the suppliers need to buy their stock, guess what? Stock market goes up. Everything goes up. But that's just more leverage for Amazon, and I think that's just too much power. I don't like it.
I think the thing that I like the least about all this is the fact that they will have enough votes to be a major shareholder, to have board seats, so they have like direct influence on the future of the companies, and that bothers me the most.
Monopoly.
That's what I'm saying, but it's not really covered in monopoly laws. It's a very interesting thing that I don't think we really cover and handle at this time. So that's why I'm like, this is interesting. Imagine you had like hundreds and hundreds of partner companies that you had, major stakes in, that you could influence their very actions. It makes it very difficult, I think, for them to break away in the future. So we'll have to see. We'll have to do more research into this, but still very, very interesting development.
Interesting.